Hi, my name is Chris Adams, and I'm going to talk today about lean back, lean forward, creating an Obsidian plugin using AI. So this tutorial is for experienced developers. If you're familiar with AI and coding, kind of a senior, I've been a senior dev for a long time, and so it's more of a mindset shift video instead of like a literal how-to. There's a link in the description. This is the GitHub of the final plugin. So when I'm referring to things, if you want to follow along, you can go look at the final plugin. And what I'm going to cover in this presentation is the idea of having a lean back and lean forward workflow and how the developer value proposition has changed with AI. So if you're like me and you enjoy building and being a developer and you want to keep your job, this is how your job has changed whether you realize it or not. I go over my tool stack that I use for this year, 2025, 2026, an overview of how to approach writing an Obsidian plugin and having an AI-first workflow, and going on to how to utilize screenshots, and also some tips for while you're developing and troubleshooting this kind of like new workflow style of AI, and with millions of other videos about this. So what my plugin is it's a creation ledger for solo creators, and it provides a Kanban board. So using front matter and data systems that are built into Obsidian, it's a system to quickly create a note and make essentially like a pseudo Kanban board for yourself, like Trello or what's the other one, Jira, if you're used to using those. And it's more kind of about, I wrote software just for myself, just to fix my own problems, and I did the software in a couple of hours. And this is the new paradigm. This is what you can do now as a solo dev because you know how to do it. And AI, of course, makes this possible. So developer value proposition has changed. As a developer, you've always had some level of ideation, like what am I going to build? Research, how do I build it? Architecture, again, like how should the pieces fit together? Create instructions for yourself or for a junior dev or something. The actual coding and code review, refactoring, and testing. Now, historically, these things were very technical things that only developers could do. Only people, if you're a certain age like me, you learned how to read books. Like you cut and paste from reading books, and then you cut and paste from Stack Overflow. Now you can cut and paste from ChatGPT. But anyway, these things that used to have a lot of value, being able to research and understand what the problems were, typing the code, actually getting the code to work, and testing used to be high value. Now they're like free. They're no value. So what that means is the rest of it is where the value creation happens. Your ideation, your ability to think and come up with ideas and solutions. The architecture, making sure you're building something that's sustainable and that the AI is not going to get confused about, and that you're not going to get confused about in the future. So we'll go further into that, but keeping each piece very simple is not always easy, but when you keep each piece simple, you can stitch together better. And also creating instructions. Depending on where you work, you might be used to receiving instructions from a product group or something like that. Now, as a developer, you're creating instructions, but you're creating instructions for a bot. And the better you get at doing that, the better your life is going to be. And also code review and refactoring is something that, as a developer, you can do, because there's lots of ways that you can write code that will function correctly and pass tests that really should probably be rewritten to work in a different way, and the AI is not going to know or care. I mean, they could be they're just still doing us a favor to write human readable stuff. They could be doing everything in assembly language. And if you find yourself doing something in red, it's a signal that you're doing something wrong. So if you're researching by yourself without asking ChatGPT or something to explain it to you, if you're typing code by yourself, or if you're testing by yourself, something is wrong. And you should be using ChatGPT to say, hey, tell me how this works. What are the best practices? Write these instructions. And then for following the instructions, you tell Cursor to do the coding and testing for you. So the new workflow for AI, I find it's helpful for myself to have two conscious processes. the lean back process where you're thinking and evaluating, and then your lean forward process where you're actually doing something. So this way, we have our nice friendly developer here who's thinking, ideation. I speak out loud to my computer. I find it's very liberating to do that. And then the lean forward part where you're executing. So in the thinking section, in the lean back, you're doing your research, you're doing your ideation, you're thinking about what you should build, and you're creating plans. And then in the other segment, you're implementing the plans, or you're actually having Cursor do it for you, and then you're evaluating and testing. So this cycle can be done at different levels, like a fractal. So you could think of thinking and researching for your entire project all at once, or for an individual feature, and this loop becomes tighter. So generally, for my workflow in this loop, I'm using ChatGPT for the thinking portion. I'm using Obsidian to hold on to the plans and organize the plans, and I'm sending them to Cursor. I'm using Obsidian today because it's an Obsidian plugin. It makes sense to keep it within Obsidian, but you don't need Obsidian. You can do the whole thing inside Cursor, and for other workflows, I'll do it in Cursor, just using Markdown files inside Cursor, but Obsidian makes it nice to read and edit. So for my tools, I use ChatGPT. Current version is 5.2. It's excellent. The chat history is there. It's multimodal, which means you can put in a text, put in audio. The context window is quite large. You can now put entire files back into it and say, how can I refactor this or whatever. The voice mode, the mobile and desktop, and the fact that it outputs Markdown or other file types that you want. With your ChatGPT subscription, you also have access to the command line tools, which I'll mention a little bit, and also the API. You can get an API key. So one, price of admission. I mean, I guess they're, at least with somebody like me, they're losing a lot of money. We're wasting water and building big data centers for me. But anyway, then you go to Obsidian, and I'm a maniac about Obsidian. It's fantastic for developers and keeping track of your life. I use it all day long. It's very good for this type of work because it's Markdown native. It's very easy to edit Markdown in a WYSIWYG style or flip back and forth. You have search. You can paste in images. It's very fast. It's good for your file system. It's just a good thing. And Cursor, that's my editor of choice. There's a lot of competing editors. I find it gets better every week. There's many models, and the usage limits are extremely high, kind of infinite. Well, I don't know if they're infinite, but I haven't hit them yet. I haven't been upcharged yet. So that's an important consideration, because I've tried some of the alternatives, which are Google's anti-gravity, which is pre-release. But you'll get going, and after an hour or so, it'll say, hey, you're out of your credits, and it'll stop you. And also, I use Replit. I use Replit for deployment, but Replit gets very expensive. I say, hey, Replit, build me a game. And it's like, okay, tries it, and the game was a throwaway, but it cost me $11 in compute time. Cursor, whatever arrangements these kind of California companies have with reality, it doesn't really bother me, because they're losing money just in order to maintain users. And that's probably going to be the case for the foreseeable future. This tool set cost me about $50 a month with these three. I pay about $20 for ChatGPT, about $10 for Obsidian, about $20 for Cursor. If that type of money bothers you, there's free tiers, I think of all three, so you can still do this. The ChatGPT voice mode is amazing. So a lot of times what I'll do is I try to walk. So I'll go out in the neighborhood and I'll pick up the voice mode, and I'll say, hey, I'll go back and forth with the voice mode and discuss an idea that I have about whatever, anything. And then the very last thing I say is, make instructions for a large language model to execute this for me. And I stop talking. It runs it essentially in the background. And then many times I've been able to do this and put it in Cursor, and it's like one shot whatever I've talked about. So this is extremely powerful. If you're similar to me at all, and you might have, I should have a website that does whatever, compound interest calculator, or whatever you have in your mind, or a JSON format or something like that. You can chat about it a little bit, and then it'll give you tools, and then you can just build it. This is something that is really powerful. I've been using a lot actually this morning. The Codex. So it's ChatGPT, Open API. They call it Codex, and it goes actually in your terminal. So within this whole, it's beyond the scope of what I'm going to talk about right now. But basically, on your local development computer, you're pointing everything at the same files. So you have Obsidian looking at the files. You have Cursor looking at the files, and you can also have OpenAI Codex looking at the files. The Codex doesn't know, as far as I know, Codex doesn't know about the web interface, so they can't really talk to each other. It's a different program. Like, it doesn't know your web interface history the way that ChatGPT does. But anyway, this is super powerful because you could tell the Codex to generate files for you and tell it where to generate them. So that's for another time. The actual plugin that I did was Creative Activity Ledger. So I touched on that a little bit before. It's a lightweight Kanban. So I'm going to spend a little while talking about the plugin, not in like a direct how-to, but more like how I did it. And then you could see how it was done. So it gives you a prompt to make a structured note and lets you fill in the front. They call it front matter in Obsidian, with drop downs using the front matter. There's different dashboards. I use the Kanban one mostly, but I ship it with a today, like whatever happened today. I ship it with another kind of filterable view of all your projects. It does use tags. It puts tags in for you, and then it connects into the Obsidian ecosystem so that you can use tags for yourself. And importantly is a text-based configuration file. So for example, there's project status, and it's a text file. So instead of me hard-coding text statuses for everybody, anybody can edit this file to say, to do or next week or whatever you want. And importantly, simple code, plain JavaScript, text files, no build. Part of that is my bias of I've been primarily back-end, mostly PHP, but I've done other things as well, C#, but I don't like builds. I like the things that don't need to be built. So I avoid that, and I also find that, at least at this stage of the game, large language models get confused with build steps, and they pull in dependencies that don't work. We don't need that anymore. So that, for example, like jQuery was it was like a helper. It was like a higher level language on top of JavaScript to make JavaScript easier to use. We don't need that anymore. Same with React. Like, React does a page state maintenance, but now you can do page state maintenance with plain JavaScript. React is just a wrapper around plain JavaScript. For the most part, I don't want to, there aren't going to be any comments, but if there were, you could cut me up in the comments for saying, oh, you don't understand React. Well, not really. I've used it a little bit. But now we can go back to the basics of text, plain JavaScript, HTML, and that's the way to go forward with AI, because you're going right at the data, and you can get it very precisely without additional frameworks. So when you're working, if you want to build an Obsidian plugin, I recommend starting with a fresh vault. You don't have to. And Obsidian on desktop is a Chromium browser. So I'm Mac, so you're going to see all Mac stuff. For Windows, you can just look up the key commands. It's probably the same. So you can open up the developer console with Command Option I, and that's like Chrome DevTools. That's exactly what it is. And in the settings, when you get to your community plugin, you're going to have to load it, and you can set you can see your plugin changing as you do it, and I'll show you where to put the plugin and everything as you're working on it. Another kind of key command that you're going to memorize is reload. So the command P, it opens up all the commands that you can run, and you can just start typing, and then reload app without saving is important. So that basically it's going to refresh the plugin. So it's caching them, but if you change your plugin file, you're going to have to reload it. And also, this is a good shortcut just in general, is the Command E. Yeah, Command E, and that toggles your edit mode, so between edit and viewing. So when you're working with a data view, like I show here in the left here, that's what it looks like with the data view JS. that's your query, and then you press Command E and it shows you the results here. So in Cursor, like I said before, we're pointing everything at the same directory. So we're going to open up the Vault as a project. And then you're going to want to set up a basic project with 3 main files that Obsidian is going to need. It's going to need a main.js, a manifest file, and the README file it's not necessary, but it's good to kind of start it up anyway. And you can just say, hey, you can do it inside Cursor or ChatGPT. Say, hey, build me this. That's kind of what I did. So in my ideation session with ChatGPT, it was part of the last command. Like I was out, literally, I think I was probably walking for this one. I said, hey, I want to do this, blah, blah, blah. I was back and forth. And I said, and part of the instructions that it spat out to execute was this, to make this. So, and I also recommend you set up a Git repository. So the way my plugin worked, it was working on files within the Obsidian Vault. So in my case, I made a Git repo for the whole Vault. And then when it came time to launch the plugin to make it like it's not in the official thing yet. I might not make it, but in order to make its own Git repository, I move files into a separate repository. So when you're going to, if you decide that you want to get beyond, if you want to publish your plugin that you're writing, it's good to make a separate, smaller Git repo just to do that. But for this Git repo, it's to keep place of where you are and make commits, make like milestone commits as the process goes on. So this is what the manifest.json looks like. It looks almost exactly like this still. There's lots of examples of how to set this up, but this is an important part that kind of registers your plugin with Obsidian, with it as in your desktop as you're working. In my plugin specifically, I use a front matter, which is it's like the data that's at the top of the file. So this, if you're in edit mode of the file, you'll see it look like this. And if you're in read mode, if you press Command E, it will go. You won't see this. And then the Kanban board is like that was one of my goals, is to say, okay, I have these projects, and some of them I don't get back to. It's like, oh, I do all kinds of things. I was like, oh, I'm making this plugin. I want to make a video. I write books about guitar stuff. I do other things. So, but sometimes I'll put it down and I won't pick it up for a month and I'll forget what happened. So this is why I wrote the software for me. So inside the plugin, I'm using text files for configuration. So this is, if you look, the first image all the way on the left is from Cursor. So inside Cursor, I can see the .obsidian folder and then the plugins folder. And then inside the plugins folder, I have my file, which is creations ledger folder. And then I'm always asking ChatGPT, it's like, what's best practices? What's best practices? And usually it seems to tell me the truth. So in my assets file, at various times, I would say, hey, build me a file that will do this and that. And then the AI would build it as hard-coded strings inside main.js. And what I realized is that I want to make sure that the assets are fully editable text files that get copied and placed in. So that makes it simpler. Again, back to being simple. Like if you just say, hey, AI, do something for me, it might do something in a way that doesn't scale well. But keeping plain text files is important. And another concept that I have going is these data registries. And data registries I use them like an array, but it's really just a list. And Obsidian kind of knows how to deal with the list as a data registry. So for example, in my statuses of the project statuses, it's like to do, done, in progress, blocked, and anything you want to add. That information is in a text file. If you look over here, it's in statuses, _statuses. So the data registry file looks like this. So it's going to be registry and the registry name is statuses. So these tags allow the main to grab it, to correctly identify it and pull out the data. So to be honest with you, the main JavaScript file that runs is, I think it's under 500 lines, and it's pretty easy to understand. It's not really my purpose to go through exactly how it works. And it was written for me almost in entirety by AI. So I could take that file and paste it in and say, how should I refactor this, for example, and I'd get some ideas back. A few more parts about the plugin itself. The dashboard views are going to be editable. So these views here, like this Kanban board here, here on this side, it's an editable view. So when you install a plugin, it shows up in your Obsidian vault like this. If you don't like it or you want to add to it, it's just a text file. This file here is just a markdown file. This Kanban board is all markdown, and it's a data view JS, which is there. So there's a dependency on data view if you're not familiar with that already. But in the README, it shows you if you want to use this. There's a README there's a README in GitHub that explains how this works. One more thing, it exposes commands. I'm still used to pointing backwards, but it exposes the commands here. So I liked using shortcuts, so you could see the capture activity, and I made a hotkey. You can do that by editing you press the plus button, and then you can edit your own hotkeys. I just use a key chord combination, so I can hold it down and then press with another finger, press the key that I want, the L key or the K key. Just K for Kanban, L for Ledger. So it's less likely to collide with some other shortcut keys that you might have. So the capture activity, this is the modal that you see. So you get the title, which becomes a part of the note. I have it saving inside a cascading folders. So I have the year, month, day, year, month, and day, and then the file name is year, month, day, hour, minute. Just to avoid, and for me it helps to see a chronological thing. It's like, I was thinking something last week, and then I can search for last week's date. Anyway, but back here with the note title, project, statuses, action, the deliverable, all the values in these files are in registries. So the projects, like you see this project here is guitar in fourth gear pentatonics. That's one of my personal projects. And I edited it comes with default projects. I edited the text file to add that project. So anytime you start a new project, like clean the garage or whatever you want, it can go as become part of your file. And then that data is also, it's like any other data that you might get from a database, except it's a flat file. So it can become part of your drop downs in your Kanban board and everything else. So going back to this whole concept, throughout developing this plugin, I had many cycles of thinking and researching, creating plans, implementing plans, giving them to robots to run, giving the cursor to run. The cursor agents are very good, I find. And if your tools are specific, if your instructions are specific, you get good feedback and then evaluation and testing. So to give a little slightly more concrete example, it's like my app should do X, Y, Z. And then I'm having a conversation with ChatGPT, who I personify probably too much. But it's like, hey, how do I do this? What are the best practices? What are the URLs for the Obsidian API? Explain to me how it works. And it's really pretty good about doing that. And at the end of our conversation, I'll say, oh, that sounds good. Write instructions for a large language model to do what we talked about, or be even more specific. Then I'm saving a markdown file in Obsidian, or in other coding projects, I'm just saving the file directly in Cursor or whatever. And Cursor can just be a text file. It doesn't necessarily need to be markdown. And then sometimes I'll edit it, because ChatGPT, if you use it a lot, it puts a lot of extra crap at the top and the bottom. So you can get rid of its extra helpful language and stuff that it uses. and using the agents inside Cursor to execute the code. You're evaluating the output and testing it, and then you repeat. An important part of this whole workflow is screenshots. They're super valuable and super important, especially with working with multimodal AI, which includes everything that we have here. So why are they important? They're very fast, and if you don't know the keyboard shortcuts to take them, learn it. The image to text processing is basically perfect. As far as I can tell, Cursor and ChatGPT both instantly read text basically perfectly. So you can put in error messages, code, user interface. I had even a year ago, I put in a picture of a button for a user interface, and I said, how do I make this button? And it was like a fairly complex like switch, and it did things. And one shot a year ago, ChatGPT nailed it. Like, gave me the JavaScript, gave me the HTML, gave me the CSS that it would take to make this custom UI slider button. And I was stunned, and it's only gotten better since then. So user interface analysis, what I was saying. So, like, for example, if you have something and your stuff's not aligned, and you decide, oh, I use Twitter Bootstrap and CSS, I just take a picture of it and say, I want these to be aligned across the top. Or sometimes I'll take it into my into a screenshot editing, and on Mac it's preview, and you draw an arrow. You draw like a red arrow, say fix this, and it's been really good about that. So when you're adding instructions for the large language model, at this time, even though if you can put images inside your Markdown file, I don't think that it can reference it. So if I have a text instructions Markdown, like a text instructions, and an image that I want to add, I have to do both. So I paste the image in and text file, and I say, hey, Cursor, go run this. So at the moment I'm showing you Obsidian, but you want to use the date and time in the file name, or I do anyway, so it can be sorted. So I put the year, month, day, hour, minute, so I can know and go back, especially if I'm having like a session. I was like, oh, I was doing this at 10 o'clock. I can go back and find the one that I was doing at 10 o'clock. Because depending on the speed of your instruction cycle, you can be generating, if you get in kind of like a flow state, you can be generating a lot of these, and you're kind of waiting for Cursor to finish the previous one. And I recommend fixing one problem before you create more. But this is a way to kind of leapfrog your ideation. So it's like, okay, I want to have a list, and I want to be able to sort the list, and then I want to be able to cancel the list. I want to have a CRUD functionality. And so you make each one of those a new set of instructions as a new task, and you can work on that and save them to these Markdown files. And then as the Markdown files happen, I think I get to it. Hold on. So you can basically paste from ChatGPT. This little icon that I'm showing over here is the copy. So you're copying from ChatGPT and you paste it in. It's all Markdown. So it looks inside Obsidian. It looks almost exactly the same as it does in ChatGPT, unless you have user styling. And for the instructions, it can be close enough. You can have spelling errors, grammatical errors, as long as your intent is pretty close. You can do it, and you can tailor the correctness to your feedback loop or the scope of the change. So, for example, if you have a little change and you're just willing to like roll the dice a little bit, just slap it in there and see what happens. And 60% of the time, it will be correct. For something where you're like, okay, I want to add a completely new feature. I want to add something big, a connection to an API or a database. You'll spend more time writing the instructions in that scenario. And you can also use ChatGPT to help you refine the instructions that it came up with in the first place. So, and you're using Obsidian or Cursor to kind of stack them for execution. So I have if I'm working just only in code, I'll have a folder just of to-dos, and have them named that way, and then I can go back through and find the ones I'm looking for. So when you have So when you're debugging, you in Cursor, so this screen here is Cursor, you drag the file that has the problem and you can paste the error and just say fix. So I say, and I have the word fix, and you don't even really need it. You drag the file that has a problem, paste the error, and it will try to fix it, and it usually succeeds. Okay. So in this, for the next few slides, I want to kind of give you an example of the ideation flow. So I got the output here, and I'm sorting the dashboard. I'm kind of testing it, like testing it, like tire kicker testing it. And I was like, oh, you know what? It would be really great if I had a reset button to reset the filters all at once. So if I have 3 or 4 filters set, just have a reset button. So that was my thought. So right away, I take this. So that's, to me, is a small scale change. It's a quick change. So I'm not going to go back out to ChatGPT for this. I'm going to do this all inside Cursor. So I take the screenshot, I paste it in Cursor. Whoops. I take the screenshot, and then I make the request in Cursor. I have this. So this is a screenshot of exactly what I did. So I have the activity, the screenshot from the left here, and I just said, hey, there should be a reset button. And about a minute later, there it was. The reset button was there, and it did exactly what I asked it to do. So boom, and then you make a git commit that says reset button worked, and then you're off to the next thing that you thought of. Here's an example of refactoring that I had to do. So one thing I found was I wanted to move make a larger structural change, and then a lot of things broke. And I was like, well, why did it break? I was like, oh, because there's hard-coded strings in there, and I'm a big stickler for not having magic strings. So everything in your code should be a constant. That's just, if you read books like Code Complete and stuff like that, that's kind of the idea. So you want to get all your stuff out of there. So what I did was, so this is an example of instructions that I'm giving to ChatGPT to write instructions for Cursor. So I'm saying, hey, ChatGPT, and sometimes I paste the whole file. So I'm pasting the file that has the problems. And I say, write instructions to remove all the magic strings from this file. The reason why I do that, sometimes you can have ChatGPT, you can ask the ChatGPT interface, say, hey, rewrite this file, but it hallucinates and gets it wrong sometimes. And you'll say, hey, wait a minute, this file is like 200 lines shorter. What happened? What's missing? And you have to go figure it out. Working inside Cursor, that's more tuned to coding. I mean, I'm tuned, air quotes, I don't know how it works, but it's more tuned to coding. So I'm using ChatGPT to say, hey, browse this. I know ChatGPT is sloppy. It's very smart, but it's sloppy with code. So I say, hey, write instructions for an LLM to fix this problem. And that's been very effective for me in getting it correct. Another example of refactoring is asking ChatGPT. This example is asking ChatGPT, does this follow best practices? Basically, like, how does the Obsidian API work in this case? And then I get a custom-made blog post just for me and my problem, and it just explains to me what the problem is. So that I can, and then again, if I want to change that, I say, okay, now make instructions for my large language model to fix this. So when I'm refactoring, if it's a short feedback or bug fix, I just go directly back into Cursor. But if it's a longer one, like, hey, why is it still broken? I've tried 3 or 4 times to fix something. Why is it still broken? How can I refactor this? What are best practices? I'm going to work back and forth with ChatGPT and then ask it to write instructions for Cursor to fix it. So AI has changed the developer role in creating software. So the actual coding has been commoditized, but developers can still add a lot of value by adding the judgment, purpose, and direction, and you can say humanizing it. I think that with developers, if you've been doing development for 5, 10, 15, 20 years, you know how code is supposed to work, where somebody that maybe can talk to ChatGPT and ask it for things, or any, I'm just using ChatGPT as a term, but Claude or whatever, and they're more likely to get stuck than a senior dev, because they're going to say, oh, I want this, I want that, I want the other thing, and the large language model is just saying, okay, 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 okay. And it's quickly, like I've done, this is from my own personal experience too, because if you try to like really vibe code a whole thing without going in and using your judgment to redirect it to being more scalable and just laid out better, it's going to code itself into a mess where you just get into constant errors and nothing's going to work. And then nobody's going to be able to figure out how to fix it. You can't figure it out, and the AI can't figure it out. You just have to scrap it and start all over again. So you as a developer, if you like your type of work, you still have a lot to add, and you can be a lot more prolific and still enjoy I mean, for speaking for myself, I still enjoy the feeling of building, creating something that didn't exist, all the things that brought me to coding in the first place. And now you can really consciously combine between the lean back, the thinking and evaluating, with lean forward. And instead of happening like, leaning back for 15 minutes and then grinding for 8 hours, it can happen in a very fast cycle. So anyway, thanks for sticking with me this far. This is my website for all my various projects. I have videos about music. I have videos about coding, at least one. I have a book. I wrote a book about bitmasks, using bitmasks for sorting, that's great. That was another thing. Maybe I'll do a video on that one day. And so that's it. Thanks for sticking with me, and have a great day.